Ladies and gentlemen, Team DoD Warrior Battalion West.
Welcome to Camp Pendleton. We realized just how important it was to continue to have opportunities for the service members to have that sense of purpose, that objective, a challenge, a way to get past the physical and the cognitive difficulties, that they were faced with. And so really, as the Wounded Warrior Games came about, and obviously the Invictus Games, some of the other forms that are out there, it really came on to be an enduring thing that has just been truly one of the most magnificent things I've seen us do from a military perspective, about taking care of our own, about allowing service members to continue to focus on the fight, continue to have that objective out in front of them, and frankly, to get on with a very incredibly and prosperous and competitive life. I do have to tell you, all of the athletes that are out here, that it's incredible to watch the perseverance and the dedication and frankly the resiliency that you have. I mean, it really is, it epitomizes what we should all strive for in all of our lives, about how willing you need to be to strive to achieve something and set your sights on it and put everything you got into it. So anyway, from a personal perspective, an incredibly big thank you for your leadership, your example for everyone else to follow, and frankly, for all of us that are continuing to serve in uniform, that we continue on to use you as an example as we push through different challenges. And really, it is no different when you think about it in terms of the tactical missions that we have, the mission focus, and the way to get after, getting up to the top of that hill, seizing the objective, and doing what our country's asked us to do.
Stop rowing and prepare for the start. Set ready. Attention.
The Marine Corps Trials has brought together all these injured Marines, people from other countries in the military, and it's just such this amazing environment. I personally feel like I'm truly accepted here for the injured person that I am, and it's not looked at as sort of a bad thing. It's more like encouraging, and I've taken a lot away because when I haven't been able to be in a competitive environment since my injury, like at all. So being able to come here, do these adaptive sports with other like-minded people has been so special to me, and truly, I just thank everybody over here all the time that's put games together, because I think it really gives an opportunity for people like me to, get back into it and feel like they have a reason to be. Since I've been doing adaptive sports, my confidence has absolutely soared compared to where I was 2 years ago, when I was at my absolute lowest and feeling so down and having put on so much weight because I wasn't able to work out during my initial injury. It was just too painful to even move, to sleep, anything. My husband actually had to put my boots on for me. When I initially got injured and not being able to work out, I needed an outlet in order to not go crazy. And I'd always loved photography, and it was suggested to me, well, why don't you just pick it up again? Just mess with your camera, maybe it will help you kind of recover. And then coming back to it and having that camera being my only outlet for resilience. That's something that we do in Wounded Warrior, is we have these resiliency programs, and using photography as a way to not think about the pain is something that I think is super important to me, and especially in my life, because sciatica is never ending. It never goes away. It's extremely painful. Same thing with my back, same thing with my knee. And being able to just have something to take your mind off the pain is so important. So be that photography, adaptive sports, listening to jazz music, like whatever gets you going, you gotta have something that makes you feel good inside.
They talked about the Marine Corps trial. Last year I couldn't do it. Again, I was in the wheelchair. And then finally I got out the wheelchair, got back in the gym, and I got told about the sports, the golf and all those things, and golf is one thing that I can do. So when I realized that I could play golf, or maybe I can go back out there and run again, because I did run track in high school, it's just, the light bulb went off and I was like, man, I can actually do something. I can actually compete again. You know, that competitive spirit. April 14th, 2018, just on a normal motorcycle ride. Next thing you know, I'm waking up in the hospital. Had no idea what happened. I was told I was hit by a vehicle. Pelvis was broken in 2 spots, so now I have 2 screws and a plate. You know, the road rash, a couple other little things, but the biggest thing that I'm working now is my left side, my left arm. Brachiflex injury, so all the nerves that control everything in my arm was injured. So that's what I'm working now. Coming here, I was hesitant. I didn't want to come out here and fail. I didn't want to, you know, embarrass myself, if you will. But coming out here, it's definitely been a blessing. Meeting a whole bunch of people, getting a whole bunch of contacts. I mean, you know, networking. It's been an absolute honor to be here and represent Marine Corps, Wounded Warrior East at the Marine Corps trials.
So the doctor told me that had I not been pregnant with Anthony, that they probably would have never known that I had this brain tumor, and I probably would have died from an aneurysm, and nobody would have ever known why or what happened, or, you know, nothing. So Anthony saved my life. Coming out here with a lot of the Marines or junior Marines, it motivates me when I see them out there, like, you know, giving it their all. And they were able to go to practices a lot of times. And it just inspired me. I was like, well, if they can do it, then I can too. And they're like, come on, Stasson, you can do it too. You know, I'm like, oh, can I? You know, with my injuries and stuff like that. So, this type of environment brings me such joy, because it makes you realize, like, yeah, we all have something going on with us. We know, like, none of us are perfect, in perfect shape or anything like that. Mentally, physically, emotionally, in any way, shape, or form, none of us are perfect. So it kind of gives you that, like, okay, I can do it. Like, what's wrong with you, or what's wrong with this one, or like, and you talk about it and you put yourself out there. And then, to me, that kind of helps me realize, like, wow, life really isn't that bad. Like, we all have our struggles, but we learn to deal with it. And for me, more recently, I've been starting to do some more of the cancer therapy groups that they would encourage me to go in the beginning of my cancer, and I never went. And I feel like me going to that just made me feel like you're helping out another fellow sister or brother and sharing your story, because sometimes you think you've got it bad. You think, you know, like, for me, when it happened, it was like, why me, God, or whatever. But then you realize other people have it worse, and the way that they're dealing with it, like, they're motivated. They're still full of life, and they push you, and they pushed me, and it motivates me. So to be around all these amazing athletes out here, I mean, it really is truly inspiring, and it's a bonding moment. Because to me, the Marine Corps, I've been in the Marine Corps since I was 17, so this to me is everything.
In 2004, I received my first traumatic brain injury in the back of a 7-ton during a rocket attack. My second time getting injured was in 2011. I was in a gas explosion, and I got a second traumatic brain injury. 2012 was also a hard year because I had just recovered from those injuries, and in a training accident, I suffered a Liz Frank injury, and one of my bones in my foot actually popped out, and it did a lot of damage. So over the next 3 deployments, it created so much of a problem that now I've had multiple surgeries on my foot and my left knee to get me more mobility and to stop the injury from getting worse. Having these injuries and being able to compete at the Wounded Warrior Games and the Marine Corps trials has definitely made it to where I'm more focused as an individual, which has helped me as a parent at home. As a stay-at-home father, I have a 2-year-old that runs my life, and I enjoy every second of it. But had I not built on those injuries and that recovery for the focus, I don't know if I would have been able to give my son everything that I have been able to give him so far. Adaptive sports is such a huge push for those that have been injured, ill, that have not been able to be a normal Marine, a normal American, because they've taken some hits. It's set them back. And then for them to be able to get out and still do things that they love so that they don't fall into, the chores of depression, to the fact that they're not 100% anymore, they can actually see it and then do it themselves. And adaptive sports is that extension that's been able to make it available for those of us that have these situations. The best thing that I've gotten from adaptive sports is the fact that it just gives you another avenue for you to recover, because you can do classrooms, you can do spas, you can do, different medications, but none of those are real recovery. Recovery comes from humor. Recovery comes from experience. Recovery comes from camaraderie. And that's what adaptive sports has done for me and those around me.
Start. Press. Back.
So it started in boot camp. I got sand in my eye during the crucible, and then it had to sit in there overnight, and then it got a corneal abrasion, and then about a month later, in the middle of MCT, it got a fungal infection, so it perforated. So then the cornea went flat, so there was a hole in it. After about 3 days in Lejeune, they flew me to Virginia and they glued up the hole. And then after about a month and a half of that, there was a big old scar covering the pupil, so I couldn't see out of it. And then last September, they did surgery, so they did a corneal transplant. So now there's 14 stitches in my eye. I learned to work around the vision, but it caused me a lot of social anxiety because it looked really disgusting for a while. I kind of isolated myself, so all of the people and public skills that I've learned throughout my life, I kind of just blew out the window. So I'm still kind of dealing with that one a lot, but a lot of people here have that as well, I feel like, and it kind of made me interact with people, so it's kind of helped with that a lot. So about a month into boot camp, I was still in first phase, and I got a letter from my grandma, who I lived with, and she told me basically that the whole town was on fire, everyone had to evacuate, and she didn't have a lot to give me, just that basically the whole town was on fire. So that was really rough, and I didn't know what was going on. I didn't know where to send my letters to. I didn't know if anyone I knew was dead or okay or what was going to happen. So I was struggling with that. I almost wanted to give up during boot camp because we ended up going to range, and I was like, why am I here? None of this is real. I should be at home with my family, and instead I'm here in this little make-believe simulation, So that was kind of rough for me, but in the end I realized that it wasn't going to do anybody any good if I went home. I went back on boot leave, and we were all living in Chico now, and then I went up to visit it, and it pretty much feels like a ghost town now. There's select houses and buildings that are still there, but it was just rainy and dark. Everything was just black and gray. Everything was just kind of gone. I mean, half the town moved away, half isn't coming back, so it's never gonna be the same, you know? But, like I said, I'm super blessed that like nobody I know passed away. So I ended up getting a big M16 on my arm, which kind of looked goofy to me. And then I also wanted to get something to commemorate like my town, you know, it burning down. So I was like thinking about it for a while, and then I don't remember when it popped into my head, but I was just kind of looking at the tattoo itself for a while. And then I ended up getting the flames in the trees because Paradise is up in the mountains and we have a lot of those trees. So I just thought that that would look good together. I mean, it reminds me of what happened and how every time I look down at it, it just makes me think of my family, honestly, that I'm super happy that nobody I know passed away in that fire. I think I was very blessed through it all.
How many is this for you? Is this your first one?
Yeah.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
You got a bunch, right? Yeah. I would say that beyond the competition and just selecting those best athletes to go forward, it's really about building camaraderie. It's about bringing veteran Marines together with currently serving Marines for a shared experience. It's about the international partners that we invite and the spirit of competition that they bring. It really, as you saw out there, if you watch it all, there's really, it's a bonding experience, and so much is shared between these folks to really, I think, help them heal. You can't watch that without being impacted. You can't be uplifted with that and watch, you know, just so many positive things going on, and there's nothing like watching courage to bolster your own courage. And I take heart in what I've seen out there. It's truly incredible, and it's a blessing to be a part of it.
There you go, free contact. I like the rally. Let's work on free contact.
So what we're doing here is we're hosting our 2020 spring training and Department of Defense Warrior Games selection camp, in which athletes are here to vie for positions on a 45-member team to compete at the DoD Warrior Games this year in San Antonio in September. We're offering 12 sports. The athletes are coming out. They have a very eventful week, which starts with athlete classification to put them in their right category for competition. And then they move through with specialized coaching in order to hone their skills, enhance their skills, and to ultimately come out and lay down performances for the selection process. It's not purely just about how the athlete does, how far they're fast they're running or throwing the shot put. It's about the recovery of the athlete. And so all of this is taken into consideration to put forward the best 45-member team. So we're really looking forward to some very exciting performances as they come out. Other than just the sports itself, we're also enhancing the athlete's wellness by additional services. And some of these are recovery-based, both mind and body. Things like yoga, for example. Take-home programs with both nutritional consultations, strength and conditioning consultations. And while they're here to keep their body strong and keep them well, acupuncture and physical therapy.
Being here with my fellow SOCOM athletes has brought me so much joy. Being surrounded by people such as Corey Remsburg, Jimmy Kovas, Tori, Clay Pendergrass, it has been remarkable. It has allowed me to not only feel uplifted, as well as be able to support them and their endeavors. The camaraderie is absolutely phenomenal. There are no excuses here. Everybody supports each other, and if you start making an excuse, it's very quick and clear that that doesn't settle well. You have to encourage each other and find that energy together every single day, no matter what you're facing, physically or psychologically. And so there's so many individuals such as DT who he'll call you out real quick and say, hey man, it could be a lot worse. You just got to figure it out and keep going. And so this camaraderie and this team has been literally the best experience I've ever had in my life up to this very moment. So I just am very grateful for my teammates. We're truly a family, and I go home and we communicate on a whole different level, supporting each other through social media, and then back to the camps, and then challenging each other on level after level. So it's been amazing. The one thing that I would like to touch on is just how beneficial the adaptive sports program is to our community. Our community is big, but we're actually really small. And the injured, ill, and wounded community is even smaller. And by having this program, it has allowed us to reconnect on a whole different level, especially for those who are medically retired. We're no longer serving at that capacity. And being invited to these adaptive camps and then making the Warrior Games team or making the Invictus Games team, it's another way to serve. And it just picks up everyone's morale, and it challenges us. And getting back on the stage and saying, hey, I'm representing our country, and this may have happened to me, but I'm not gonna let it define me. And if it wasn't for this program, a lot of us would probably be confused on what direction, where to go. And we wouldn't have the support that we have. So I just want to say thank you for that. It's been a truly life-changing experience.
I suffer from really severe PTSD, which also kind of includes the depression aspect and the anxiety, and then the TBIs, and so those are all have to do with your mind and your head and things that people can't see. And so for me, that's been a really big struggle. The memory that you lose from TBIs is you got to adapt to it, just like the sports, right? You got to adapt to life and figure out how to make it work for you in your own set of reminders, I guess, for things. Just being crazy in the military in general. And then also a lot of nerve damage. So I have a lot of nerve damage down the right side and in my head. So it's all a little bit of a struggle. But and I was really young, so I didn't really think a whole lot about it at the time. You'd get the shots in your back and in between your spine, and you'd feel fine for a while, and you'd go back and get them again, and you'd take the meds or you'd go through physical therapy, but you really didn't want to let the team down, so you just kept pushing to get back out there. And I think I did a lot of damage just being stubborn and young and not knowing what this was ultimately going to do to me in the long run. These adaptive sports have helped me so much in multiple ways, so not just mentally and emotionally, but physically as well. I've been able to maintain a certain amount of strength to continue doing everything on my own. And mentally, it's been the best antidepressant to just get out there and be active and be involved in some healthy competition and realizing that you are really capable of all these things again. And you never really weren't. You're just given these new opportunities, and so that for me has been mind-blowing, and you just can't, that's not something you can buy.
Gotta go through, come on!
So my injury occurred in 2010 in Afghanistan. During operations, we were engaged by the enemy, and during our firefight, I received a gunshot wound through the mouth. Entered through the mouth, took most of my chin bone and jaw, and then exited through the bottom, which it quickly medevaced from our area. Took about 2 years of multiple surgeries and recovery, and that happened in 2010, and then I returned back to active duty back in 2012. The military adaptive sports helped me out before I returned back to active duty. my SOCOM Care Coalition advocate, reached out to me and knew that I was in a hard place because before my injury I was very in shape. You know, I was fit, but after my injury it took a toll on me physically and mentally. It felt like I was starting all over again, and it was tiring, and the mentality was just, it was awful. My wife knew that I was struggling within, you know, those 2 years of multiple surgeries and recovery, because I wasn't able to do anything. Nothing strenuous. And I have always been a very active person. So when my advocate reached out to me and kind of piqued my interest about sports, and I knew that it was something that I could do, which was the archery, because I knew it was not a strenuous sport, no high impact, nothing that would jaw my face or anything like that. That kind of brought a spark back into me. So after my first attendance at the first camp, it kind of put that light in me and that excitement back into me, like, oh, I can do something. And I was excited. And I think if it wasn't because of mass at that time, I probably would have hung it up in the military. I probably would have been done. I probably would have got to that point that I didn't want to go on more. I didn't want to you know, stay in service. So that's how they helped me out. And from that day, I still remember my advocate from that time. And I thank him when I still see him or talk to him for introducing me to mass and getting me back into the fight.